Hey there, welcome to episode 130 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 11:46 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on Thursday, May 21, 2026. We usually publish new episodes of FFS Talk on Thursdays, often in the morning, but not always. Here we will come pretty close. Today's title and topic, Ignorance. If you're not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, the idea is fairly straightforward. We take a topic, we discuss what works, what does not, and what we might do about it in a rational way, I suppose. The idea is to be constructive in our arguments, debates, conversations, discussions, what have you. Normally, well, not normally because we have not yet, but the intent is to invite guests to participate in these conversations, discussions, arguments, debates. That all depends, right, on the characters involved. Thus far, 130 episodes in, remember there was an episode 0, so there will be another, after today, there will be 131. We have yet to book a guest to have such conversations. Now, I will admit it is for a lack of trying. It turns out it's a lot easier in Vegas to produce an audio program such as this without having to book guests. But at the same time, we're able to establish a basis for these conversations. If anyone has an idea or ideas that would counter or even agree with some of the content of previous episodes, come on down. Let's have a conversation. We can always tune up ideas. Ideas that are good can always be better, right? So the conversations can take any turn. You never know. So the field is lousy with seeds planted for various future conversations. One of these days, we'll book some guests and see what happens. It's really a question of discovery. The podcast landscape is vast. And so it's about getting the word out. I'm probably focused in the greater Vegas area, but you never know. We'll see. We'll try to build up an audience. I've been talking about building up an audience. I'm sorry, an audience. Yes, I would love to build up an audience. Building up a guest list so that we can have people who would be interested in coming on and having conversations, debates, etc. Probably a debate, but a constructive conversation just as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. By the way, if you're not familiar with what FFS means, it's a pretty common. Sometimes it's said expanded, not an abbreviation, but FFS is something you'll see written here and there to keep it clean. If you don't know what FFS means, hang out in Ireland or hang out with more Irish people, you'll find out. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I'll read to you. And we have a few Wikipedia links today just for background if you are curious about these things. And I will remind you, if you would like to cure ignorance, Wikipedia is a good place to start, but rarely the best place to end your treatments. Take it for what it's worth. The summary of today's episode then. We talked about apathy in episode 113 and optimism in episode 126. Today we ponder the wonder of not knowing. The FFS Talk audio program has a homepage, ffstalk.com. One day it will look nice and be more useful, but that will be forevermore the primary point of publication, just in case Spotify decides to close up shop or kick us off, or who knows what. Own your brand, own your content. That is the future. Profile page linking everything. I've had this page for over 5 years. It was 5 years in March 2026. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. There you will find links to all of my audio programs. You will find links to some projects I'm working on. You'll find some affiliate links. You don't have to spend any money on this page. You do not need to buy me a coffee. You are welcome to do so if you want. The affiliate links do not add any cost if you decide to make use of them. A couple of links to some of my more frequent, possibly favorite coffee beans, mostly from Amazon, but not all. A couple of other products from Amazon. I do use, even though it's Jack Dorsey, I do use the Cash App, Cash Card, whatever it is, Cash App, mostly for buying groceries, but I do use it frequently. So I have an affiliate link for that. So yeah, everything that's on there, I do use either regularly or even frequently. Buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts is where you will find the weekly Buy Me an Update audio program published Monday mornings, 5 minutes or less, a quick rundown on the previous week's audio program topics and any news and announcements upcoming. It used to be published there exclusively, hence the name, but it's published 2 hours later in the usual places. The same can be said of the Coffee Solo audio program, ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts. Same deal. Used to be exclusive, now published 2 hours later in all the usual places. All the links for all of these are on the profile page, buymeacoffee.com/danhugo. Now, the links for today's episode. Again, these are all Wikipedia links. By the way, I'm having some coffee. The weather and the allergy season of Vegas are making themselves known. But my voice is always like this, so it's the way it is. Ignorance. There's a Wikipedia page for that. Interesting, and I'm going to refer to this a couple times, but if you scroll down on that page, you'll find a few more specific variations, and I refer to a couple of them. Who knew ignorance was so complicated a topic? Cognitive dissonance, another Wikipedia page. This is when you think one thing but do another thing, probably knowing that you're contradicting yourself. Cognitive dissonance is it is a problem, one that we might solve someday. Who knows? Speaking of one we might solve someday, unknown unknowns. That's a simplification of probably the only quote and certainly the only thing ever done by Donald Rumsfeld that I actually appreciate and refer to. Unless we're talking history of the Middle East, then his name should come up a lot more often. There are unknown unknowns. The Wikipedia page title. There's the link. So the known knowns, there are known unknowns, and there are unknown unknowns. It's even though it sounded maybe a tiny bit silly, it's actually completely reasonable and worth keeping handy in your Rolodex of questionably useful but actually useful knowledge. Ignorance of the law. I think this is just interesting, and it is not a defense. No, it's not an excuse, as it turns out. It's an actual Greek expression. I'm sorry, Greek. It's a Latin expression. Sorry, I was just doing a bunch of not Greek language stuff, but I was looking up some stuff having to do with Greece. So, apologies. Latin and Greek, not the same. Latin, should I even try? Ignorantia, juris non excusa, excusat. Ignorance of the law, excuse not, I believe it is, translated directly, but the ignorance of the law is not an excuse. You cannot get away. I didn't know the speed limit. I didn't know I couldn't do that. So those are the links. Surely there could be more, but here we are. First, some background. This is a word, ignorance, that is often conflated with words like dumb or stupid or worse, to indicate that someone is not capable of understanding or knowing, while it is in fact more about being unaware of, for some reason, which is the word ignorance, which itself could be a problem, but a person who is ignorant is more likely unaware of some collection of facts or details around a particular topic. So to say someone is unable to, using less pleasant language perhaps, production by a street, if you heard that car go by, you can use unpleasant language to be insulting perhaps. But if you're implying that someone is unable to learn or unable to comprehend or accept new knowledge or insight, that's a different thing. Ignorance is just not knowing. I will admit it right now. I am ignorant of a great many things. And with each passing day, I become aware that learning only exposes more ignorance. How frustrating is that? It's like you can. I didn't even think about looking this up, but I'll leave it to you. But there is a famous thing. Maybe this is Greek. The theory that in order to go a certain distance, you must first go half the distance and then half again and so on. So one could argue you never actually reach your destination. Similarly, you can only learn, you might learn half of something and then the next day learn half again and so on. So you never really learn everything. You asymptotically approach. Anyway, we do what we can. Maybe it is ignorance of this difference that makes addressing ignorance an issue. Maybe. Who knows? Some do not like to admit that they do not know something, or they want to go along to get along sometimes. You can look up those ignorance terms at the bottom of the Wikipedia page. You'll see a couple of things that go in that direction. It could be a variety of reasons. And so yeah, check out that list. Maybe you'll find something on there that resonates. Hopefully not, but not everybody can know everything, so it's okay. The questions are why, and then are you willing to address that? Like I said, I read every single day, and I still don't know everything. But I'm making an effort. I believe ignorance is a treatable condition, though the first step is, as is so often the case, admitting that there is a problem. And again, I always do that. I don't know. I don't know, but I will look it up. Like I should look up what I'll probably do it at the end of the show. What is the thing where you go halfway? I know it is a thing, and I'll try to fill that in at the end if I remember. So what works? Again, the format of the show. What works? What doesn't? What can we do about it? And you can argue with me if you want. We cannot know everything, though some might say that is what AI is for. We are likely more productive and perhaps happier if we leave some of the extra stuff out of mind. We are not apathetic. We did a show on that. Rather, we are leaving some details for others, perhaps subject matter experts, to consider. I don't know, but I do care. So think about that. I don't have to know everything, even though I eventually aim to. But your mileage may vary. There is an old saying that ignorance is bliss. In fact, that's also one of the links in the Wikipedia list on the ignorance page, which can be true more often than we might think. This could apply to anything from impact of dietary choices. Should I eat this? I don't know. Is it unhealthy? Who knows? Other people keep track of that. Is it keto friendly? Is it gluten free? Does it have the right sugar substitute? Is it going to cause me problems in 30 years? I don't know, but it's delicious. Whatever. How's it going to affect my overall health? Who knows? From that to which companies should we do business with? Which ones are the good ones? And then who should we vote for? That's a loaded one, so we won't touch on that too much. Whether this is teetering on the apathy ledge is probably something to consider. Sometimes it's I don't know and I don't care, perhaps. But sometimes it's just I don't know and I don't know if I should know. Somebody else will worry about it. So it's sort of a variation on the first point, but this is maybe a little bit more intense. Yeah, the first, I would say we get these 2 points. So we cannot know everything and we kind of accept that. And then the second one is this one is more along the lines of other people probably already know, so I don't really have to worry about it. So it's not really not caring, but it is kind of an admission and maybe even a resignation. Despite everything, there is one good quote from Donald Rumsfeld that we will paste in here. This is the actual quote. Reports that say that something hasn't happened are always interesting to me because, as we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know. We also know that there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns, the ones we don't know. And if one looks throughout the history of our country and other free countries, and really the world, it is the latter category that tends to be the difficult ones. Wishing to know the things we don't know begins with knowing what those are. I don't know yet. So I don't know, but I don't care. I don't know and I don't care. I don't know and I do care. I don't know and I don't care. Right. And I don't know yet. So ignorance is not so bad if we know where we are. But what does not work? What's not so good about ignorance? Obviously, there are things we really do need to know. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, for example. And while Rumsfeld's quote might sound good, there are some known unknowns that must become knowns for the sake of safety, security, personal wellness in general, of any kind, for the good of society. There's a range of possibilities there. Ignorance is simply not an option, though. Or if it is, there may be a cost, maybe even some jail time. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Be careful. See, I don't know yet. So yeah, there are some things you probably should look into And you should know enough what those are. So that might be the first hurdle. Good old cognitive good old cognitive dissonance and inability to spell that or say that is often bad, sometimes worse. There are a few flavors. The Ignorance Wikipedia link has a few variations listed for more information. Some would fall into this category, including willful ignorance. I'm not going to make it. Willful ignorance, pluralistic ignorance, maybe fallibilism. How was I able to say that word? Maybe others. Those are all listed in the page there. So left to the listener to check into those. These variously lead to contradiction for one which can be a problem, and for a group. So if it's a contradiction for one person, that might be bad. For a group, which can be self-reinforcing and perhaps even contagious, that might be a worse problem. If other people start to agree with the ignorant, that probably isn't right, but I'm going to believe it is. If cognitive dissonance catches on at scale, there can be actual consequences when a group of size can sway decisions based on and supporting ignorance or notions supported by ignorance. And we could say that this does not work, and others might convince themselves and their colleagues otherwise. So yeah, that's the sort of ignorance that even though you know it's wrong, you go along with it for whatever reason. That seems like a problem. That's okay. Entire new countries have been founded on cognitive dissonance. So it's the way it is. It's a human failing, to be sure. Can we fix it? That's a good question. Modernity is now upon us. There are those who rely with complete trust on their favorite AI chat tools and will accept what they are told without question. And this can be quite frustrating. Yeah, to be honest, whenever I hear someone say, I hate saying that word, I asked ChatGPT and it told me, and you're like, really? You couldn't just go find actual information and build your own opinion? But that's where we are. There are many occasions, only a fraction documented for all to see, where the responses or interactions with presumably AI, large language model tools, will lead someone astray, such as where they were ignorant before, they still are ignorant on the topic at hand, but may be dangerously misinformed as well. There were famously, when ChatGPT first came out, and then variations on that collection of tools, ChatGPT told someone, or maybe it was Google, I can't remember, told someone to put glue on a pizza or something silly like that. So hopefully there wasn't so much ignorance that people actually tried some of these things, but then people are swallowing Tide Pods. So who can say? But there may not be, wait, I totally skipped a sentence here. If there is a core ignorance about what AI tools are capable of, where their information is sourced, and how their responses are constructed, and this is probably the general truth or state of affairs at this time. Not everyone is an AI researcher. Not everybody understands what vectors and tokens and much less gradient descent and hidden layers. The whole thing is decades and decades old. Yeah, so if you haven't even been keeping one eye on it, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and there may not be enough awareness to question responses in a world that has been dominated for decades by in the outside world, dominated by search engine results. As in the adage, I read it on the internet, it must be true. We've kind of set ourselves up for this, I think. So what can we do? What can we do about ignorance? I don't know is the easy answer. I would refer us all back to the one useful thing Donald Rumsfeld said regarding knowns and unknowns, and consider pro-action in this regard. That is, we should be aware, we in fact must be aware in many cases, of what we do not know, what we do not understand, and perhaps when we are being misled for whatever reason, and take steps to understand, right? We should be able to say to ourselves, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. But then on the other hand, I live in Greater Vegas. I live in the city of Las Vegas. This is a place built on the inability of people to do math. And that's a Penn Jillette quote, Penn and Teller, Penn Jillette. People who don't understand math will happily give their money to our casinos. So thank you for that. So if we're being misled, or we should take steps to understand. What are the odds here? What are the payoffs? Why is there a difference? What's that third 000? Well, what's the 000, I should say, on the roulette wheel? Is that going to do anything for me? The internet may at one time have been a source of reasonable truth, at least a starting point, as I always say. Wikipedia is a great place to start, but not always and often not the best place to end when you're researching something. Now, extra caution must be taken to avoid agenda and hallucination. Is this being paranoid? I would prefer to think reasonably and rationally cautious. Don't believe everything you read, even if it is on the internet. But I asked Claude instead of ChatGPT. Good for you. Check your experts. We still cannot know everything, but there are humans out there in the world who do know everything about some particular things. They've probably spent a long time becoming expert in something, spending time on research, on science, if it's a scientific topic, analyzing data, understanding the math behind analysis, statistics. Your theories and notions may seem sound, but applying scientific methods, statistical analysis, and academic and expert rigor to a question or concern is not the same as listening to a podcast, including this one. We is understanding where one is in the universe. We may not know it all, but we really do need to know what it means for experts who actually know what we do not. A veiled reference to the pandemic era, of course. Not everyone is an epidemiologist, nor a virologist, nor an immunologist, though they play one on YouTube. By the way, the lab leak hypothesis, of course, has been shown to be pretty likely, if not true. When these sorts of things come up, I simply say I was in a house fire. That's why I moved to Vegas. I may have mentioned this previously in somewhere. House fire, April of 1993. No, 93 is when I moved to Silicon Valley. It was in Sunnyvale, California in April of 2013, a few years later. I did not pause while I was leaving the burning home to wonder how this fire started. That is a question that could be asked later. So there were issues around, how did this start? During is a fine time to be curious, but not to wait. I'm not leaving the house until I know how this fire started. That's not a good idea. So that's where I fall on that. The lab leak hypothesis was something to check in parallel, but I'm not a fan of vaccine deniers because Candace Owens told you to be a vaccine denier, for example. The most difficult thing, perhaps, is interacting with others and attempting to determine who knows what and why, and then what to do about it. Sometimes debate is impossible. Pardon me. Get a little sip of coffee here. Sometimes debate is impossible. Sometimes pointing to information that is provably correct, or would at least be the basis for a fact-based consideration, is counterproductive, or worse. And this is something we as a species on this planet will need to reckon with sooner rather than later. That's wishful thinking. It will probably be later, and it will probably be too late when you really think about it. To quote another person with whom I mostly disagree, for better or worse, his company is probably heading down the tubes. Facts don't care about your feelings. When you really think about that, that is true. And the source being Ben Shapiro. It is what it is. Sometimes somebody will say something good. He joins Donald Rumsfeld in that regard. But humans at scale are not there yet. Not even close. We have work to do on separating fact and feeling. So, since I have remembered, I'm literally going to pause a quick search of the internets. An object must first fall halfway before it can fall the full distance. And then it must once again fall halfway before it can fall. So there's a half. And if you remember your high school algebra, you are approaching zero, zero height, the ground. You're approaching it asymptotically in that model, and this is called Zeno's dichotomy paradox. It's formulated by ancient Greek philosopher Zeno of Elea, and that was basically less than 500 years less than less than, I don't know if you can have it, somewhere around the year 490 or after BCE. That's the before the Common Era, if I'm remembering correctly. So it was a while ago. Call it almost 2,500. No, yeah, almost 2,500 years ago. So basically 2,500 years ago. Zeno's dichotomy paradox. So before you fall a full distance, you must first fall halfway. That's the answer. I'm not a fan of people who don't want to learn more. This is my number one concern for AI tools in general. How to really use AI tools. When I say that, of course, nobody is not using AI tools in one way or another. I use AI tools to create my cover art, not 100%, not 100% of each cover and not 100% of the time, but I do use those because I'm incapable of any artistic expression. Creativity, maybe. Expression, not so much. So using the AI tools, I'm therefore not learning how to do certain things. I'm having the tools do it for me. That's not ideal. When people are looking up things and they do ask a chat, and now, of course, Google, if I'm not going to link to anything about this right now because it's literally just been announced. Google had their I/O conference to show off their latest and greatest, and they're changing their search so that it's more of a chat conversation. So you will literally be asking Gemini, Google's large language model AI tool set. You'll be asking Gemini instead of searching for keywords. There was always the AI mode. I think that's what they called it. So now they're just going to make it the thing. So you'll always be asking or prompting a search engine to respond. And now the question is, will it send you to websites? No. So will this impact how the internet works, given Google's role in where the internet has evolved to? Evolved might be a strong word. Devolved might be a better word. That'll be an interesting thing. I have grave concerns about that. But my big concern is that people will stop being curious and they'll stop seeking knowledge, choosing instead to receive an answer based on their question. Now, if somebody doesn't know how to ask the right question, they may not get the right answer. That's a different thing. That might find its origins in ignorance. But how to work with these tools. There was a famous, and I've referred to this somewhere in my podcast travels. Way back when, there was the Newton from Apple. I did work in the Newton group at Apple Computer. And it attempted to recognize handwriting, and it would usually fail, sometimes at the worst possible times. So a company called Graffiti had come up with a way of simplifying character entry so that the characters were easier to parse, and so you could do handwriting recognition of vector drawings, right? So to draw an A, you would draw an upside down V. So you would start in the lower left, you'd go up and to the right, down and to the right. Oh, that's an A, right? Very simple to parse, to determine, oh, you typed an A. Oh, that's a D, that's an A, that's an N. Okay, oh, it must be Dan. Actually, it didn't even do that. It just said D-A-N. Good. So Graffiti eventually, somehow, I cannot remember if it was like a partnership or they entered into some sort of an arrangement with US Robotics, makers of modems, and they launched the Palm Pilot. And eventually Palm would become its own company, Palm. I worked at Palm on the pre. That was much, much later. But the deal was, rather than meeting you where you are writing, the computer in your pocket, the computer will require you to speak its language, Graffiti, so that you can enter characters that it can more easily understand. So if you knew how to work with your device, if you were able to adjust your communication style so that your writing would fit its understanding, then you were fine. So there was an active incentive to change the way that you wrote to work with this device. So even though your chat-based large language model tools are able to understand the language that you are using, right? They mostly speak English for better or worse, and that's a different problem. But so they speak English, and you speak English to them, and they will understand what you tell them to a degree. If you actually play with this a little bit, you'll start to discover that the wording, the order of the words that you use, the word selection, so synonyms and grammatical construction, So how you order the words, where you place your adjectives and so on, may affect, because that's your input token vector, right? May affect how the prompt is converted into a response. And so what you get back may be based on what you put in, right? That's an old computer adage. If you know, you know. So people may tend to learn how to use the tool rather than to know how it actually works or what it's actually responding with and so on. So that's a concern of mine. I am not a fan of, for obvious reasons, I'm not a fan of artificial intelligence taking over computer engineering, because that's my background. So like, hey, humans are still good at this. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting near-term future as these tools in particular in modernity kind of embrace and extend the notion that the Google search engine, and then to a lesser extent Bing and Yahoo, and all the way back to Alta Vista and Lycos and these various other tools from days of old, how they were able to find things and return them. And then we started seeing, of course, how about if we find things and return them in an order that we determine might be the most, put up your air quotes, useful, and that's where the trouble can begin if you're not careful. So I think AI tools are just making that a little bit worse, and ignorance may become an incurable disease at some point. Who knows? I don't know. I remain ignorant on this topic in particular. So there you go. You can hear my voice is already calling it a day. I'm going to finish this coffee and publish this episode. Thank you for listening as always. If you want to argue, if you have something to say about this, we should have an episode together. I'm going to start pushing that a little bit more now as the summer approaches, and we'll see where that goes. So on that note, thank you for listening as always. This was a briefer episode than normal, but every day we see AI news and AI this and AI that, the AI bubble, etc. This is where ignorance is going to be a real problem if we don't know how these things work, or what they are capable of and what they're not really capable of. So interesting time ahead. So I think this will be something we re-explore more than once in the near and maybe medium term. So yeah, check out buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo for links to all of my other productions. Maybe there's something of interest in there, including today's episode. That's it. That's where we're going to end it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. We'll hear from you someday, and you'll hear from me next week. Bye-bye.